Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get down to business. Topic for the month every Thursday is finish your year with momentum. I saw them last weekend in Dallas, Texas, part of the group there, the COC, I call them, but they're still influencers and did a great job training. Without further ado, always back with us on Thursday this month to close it out. Let's give the one and only Regional Vice President, Mr. Dean Tarrolly, a hand. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's up, Mr. Thomas? Congratulations on that, man. That's a crazy story about Augusta. Wow. That's amazing. That's
25 years ago.
Yeah. So what a crazy story. So, it's funny that you bring that up and share that with everybody because, one of the things that we talk about and you and I have talked about this, and certainly we've talked about this in the last, 10 years I've been doing your call, is being consistent. And you guys, 25 years, right? Like 25 years in an industry. And here's what's crazy. This is taking me a little bit off track, but it actually is going to loop back around to what I want to share with you. 25 years in an industry. I know there were a couple of companies, but the industry was the same. If you're consistent, I don't know if you could help but have your business progress. Now, people can be involved in an industry for a long time and never move their business forward. And the reason that happens is because they're attending but not participating. Right? You can attend something for years and years and years, but if you don't participate, there's no way to advance your business. So when Mr. Thomas says that he got reminded or he was called out, that's great news. That he was called out on something from 25 years ago. That's amazing, and I'm just blown away by that. And the reason why I'm blown away by that is, you guys write this down, even though this is not part of what I was really going to talk about, but it is going to show up in a few minutes. Longevity equals credibility. Longevity equals credibility. Now, you guys have heard me say that before, and you being around, like, I'm going to tell you something. When you run into that friend or family member and it's a year or two or three or four, and they say something like this, they look at you. And by the way, I know some of you have heard this conversation. I've heard it. You still doing that thing? You still doing that? You're still doing that ACM? Well, it's ACN. You dope. No, don't say that. Longevity equals credibility. So I want you to, to know that. And yeah, it's been, what a crazy story that you got with that this very morning. I had a friend that had, some stuff happened that this individual had to deal with just this morning. And, we got some good news about that as well. And, thing is done for my friend that had to take care of something pretty significant. And let me just tell you about that. Oh God, this could open up, Alice could open up a can of worms. All right. So look, okay, here goes. This group, with what we do, whether it's life, our work, our businesses, this is really important. You guys have heard me say the word self-scout. You got to self-scout yourself. So I want you to write this down. You got to do your best with what you got. You got to do your best with what you got. Hang on 1 minute here. Now, this does dovetail right into what I want to talk about. So you got to do your best with what you got. Okay. And why don't people's businesses progress in a way that they want to? Right? There's two reasons. They're either not doing their best or they don't realize what they got their hands on. Does that make sense, you guys? if it look, you heard Christine talk about, this team. You guys, I consider myself very lucky. I have people that are on my team, that happen to be on my team, that are great. They're really great people, and they happen to be really good at ACN because they chose to do it. It's very difficult to go regional director by default. You can't phone in regional director. Like, the chances of having 3 or 4 teams and finding people that build, and you're not that leader that's guiding and directing them, very small chance. It can happen, but I think it's a very small chance. So one of the things I tell people all the time, if you have the opportunity to speak with somebody who's a regional director, they've hit that position, do not take their time for granted. I don't take their feedback for granted. I don't, right? I don't. And I'm encouraging you guys not to do that either. So last week, and this is going to come full circle, like it always does in a minute. Last week, we talked about being a disruptor, and we talked about, how Uber disrupted the cab industry. And we talked about how Airbnb disrupted. And you guys have heard that a lot in the ACN conversations and the presentations and the lingo. But what I talked to you guys about last week is, what are you doing to disrupt your schedule? What are you doing to disrupt your routine to get you where you want to go? Because if the routine doesn't change, the outcome cannot change. If the routine that you're doing doesn't change, it's impossible to change the outcome, because you're doing the same things. By the way, same thing goes for me. So I was thinking this morning about how can I advance that conversation? And here's what I thought. I'm grabbing some coffee before we hit it. I want you guys to write down 2 words, and here they are. And I'm going to deal with them one at a time, because it's not going to mean what you might think it's going to mean. First word is stacking, and the second word is progress. So when you hear the word stacking, right, in a conversation dealing with our business, typically what that word refers to is stacking reps or stacking customers on other people's teams, which, by the way, you cannot do. You cannot do that. That is not how the compensation plan works. You get in trouble for it. So don't do that. So when I'm talking about stacking, it may not be in the way you think. Really successful people in any industry, I think one of the things that they do is they stack. But what they stack are their skills. You got to stack skills, right? If you start stacking your skills, it won't matter what environment you're in. It won't matter who you're talking to, because you're going to have the skills to be able to guide you through the environment, the person you're talking to, the challenge that you might have with a team, because you're stacking skills. Here's another one, stacking activities. So you have stacking skills and you have stacking activities. Well, Dean, what do you mean? Really simple. When I talk about stacking activities, what are some of the core activities that happen in your ACN business? Well, an activity is certainly peaking. An activity is certainly presenting. An activity is closing, and closing really should be not about trying to close someone for $2.99. What it should be is closing someone in a way to let them know that you have a vehicle to help them get what they want. That's closing. Stacking appointments, stacking peaks. You guys, I have them all right here for you. Stacking peaks. How, like you guys understand something. What, anybody can put this in the chat. What is the main, if you were to name the main objection for someone to decide to get started with us after you've presented the business to them, you've shared the opportunity, there you go. Christine already said it. No time. Okay. So we don't have to, don't worry about writing it in. She got it. No time. So the issue is time. So if you as a leader or an up and coming leader, someone who wants to take ACN seriously and build this thing, I want you to think about this. You have these people that you come across in your life or in the lives of your teams. And now you have you have access to these people. And I want you to think about this, right? A lot of you think that this is your work week. I piqued someone's interest. Now, by the way, I'll be the first one to pat you on the back. That's awesome. But really, if we add up the amount of time, anybody can take a shot at this. I don't care if someone unmutes, whatever, it doesn't matter to me today. Here's the deal. How long do you guys think it really takes to pique someone? And I'm not trying to be rhetorical here. I'm really saying, like, to pique someone, maybe just build a little rapport, pay them a compliment, pique their interest. Let's talk about it for a second. How long do you think that takes? Sharon said 60 seconds. Heather Peary said 1 minute, or Sharon said 1 minute. Heather said 60 seconds. I agree, by the way, about a minute, right? About a minute to pique someone's interest. So I want you guys to think about this. You know, you're my leader, and I come to you and I go, hey, Ryan, hey, Sharon, hey, Al, hey, Maria, hey, Christine, hey, Rox, hey, I piqued someone today. Yeah, that's kind of what you're supposed to do, right? Isn't that part of the deal? Well, I want you to think about this. How about this? You guys, just think about hearing me say this to you as someone on your team. Hey, you, want to let you know, I piqued 32 people today. Okay, now watch this. If we're in agreement, it's about a minute or two. You're talking about 30 minutes out of a day that you piqued 32 people. Here's my question for you. Okay. Out of 32 people that you piqued in a day, do you think someone is going to be interested to look? Do you think someone, if followed up with properly, I get your number, I'll text you mine, would love to be able to sit down with a Zoom or even just have a quick conversation with you and my business partner, and they can explain what we're doing here in the marketplace. She's amazing. He's amazing. If you do that properly, you may leave that person's place of business and they are hoping and praying that you call them. Now that's a good peak to me. Now, are some people going to flake? Absolutely. But I want you guys to think about this. If you have 32 peaks in a day versus 1 peak in a day, and you've stacked those peaks up and you have a bunch of them stacked up, right? And someone doesn't return a call. Do you care? You got 31 more. But if you have 1 peak in a day and they don't return your call and you're kind of bummed out, well, I gave it a shot today. Really? That's giving it a shot? You barely got on the court. By the way, Al, permission to be direct. I should have asked you beforehand. Whoops. Sorry. Yeah. Like, you guys, get the law of large numbers in your favor. How do you do that? You stack peaks. So now we're stacking skills. We're stacking peaks. We're stacking activities. How about this? We're stacking appointments. In any given day, if you have 5 presentations or 5 2-on-1s or 5 PBZs in your team, whatever. By the way, when you got a bunch, each one doesn't hold when you have a bunch, each one doesn't hold the importance that can tip your entire business. Like, who cares? I got another one to go to. I'll just give you an example from my life in the entertainment business. You know, if you have 1 audition in a month, that audition weighs heavy. If you have 5 auditions a day, you're done with one and get to the next. It doesn't mean each one isn't important. What it means is when you're playing in the law of large numbers, the advantage, you guys write this down. When I play in the law of large numbers, the advantage goes to me. When I play in the law of large numbers, the advantage goes to me. If I play in the law of small numbers, I have no advantage. It doesn't mean that each meeting isn't important. It means if you stacked a bunch of meetings and appointments up, it's freeing, right? Like, what do you care if the person changed their mind? They signed up today, they quit tomorrow. Well, I got 7 other meetings. Listen, best of luck to you. You almost feel bad for them because you know how hard you would have gone to work for that person. Like, give me a break. The law of large numbers changes everything, by the way. How about this? This is going to sound weird. Stacking stops. Write that down. Stacking stops. I'll tell you what that means. How many stops can you make on your way home from work? How many stops can you make on your way to work? How many stops can you make on your way to meeting your friends for Taco Tuesday? How many stops can you make when you're doing errands for how about this? Here's a big one. Here's a big one. How many stops can you make doing Christmas shopping? How many? If you make one stop at the florist that you had a little conversation with, well, that's one, and one's better than none, but two is twice as good as one. How many stops can you make? You guys understand that the effort to be able to do that and get yourself in front of people speaks volumes. So you got to start stacking. Got to start stacking some stuff. You got to start stacking some skills, stacking appointments, stacking peaks, stacking stops, stacking your activities, your skill set. Show of hands, is this making sense to anybody? Got to stack some stuff. So when you get really good at stacking these things I just talked about, I believe your progress is inevitable. I think your progress is inevitable because you can't stack a skill set and stay in the same place that you're at. I just don't think it's possible. Because if you stack a skill set, you go, well, Dean, you still have to do the work. Right. But if you're stacking skills, you're going to be more confident. If you're going to be more confident, guess what you're going to do? You're going to go talk to people. You're going to be like, you know what? Life got in the way. This happened, that happened, family, work, all the things that happened to all of us over the course of the last couple of years. I don't judge. All of them happened to all of us in one way, shape, form, or another. And you all know as well as I do, what can you do about yesterday? Nothing. What can you do about a half an hour from now? A ton. Where could you be by the end of December? Oh, give me a break, man. Well, you understand, Dean, people are trying to save up money for Christmas presents. Let's make them some Christmas present money. It's just how you look at it. Well, I'm getting ready to take this trip. I understand. What if this could help pay for the trip that you need to make? That's just a different way of looking at the exact same. Am I making sense? Okay, cool. So check this out. When you start stacking these things, it's inevitably going to lead to progress, right? Here's a big one. When I talk about stacking, stacking presentations, and I'm sorry I don't have another word. I don't really like the word presentation, but you're stacking shares. You're sharing the business with people. You start stacking those up. You start stacking exposures up, right? I'm telling you guys, I don't know a lot. I've learned a little bit, but I'm telling you, if you stack exposures, your business will build. If you stack exposures, your business will build. Because even the wrong person could lead you to the right person. Well, it's not really for me, but you got to talk to my friend Megan. She's great. She's in real estate, right? Dude, every realtor should be doing ACN, by the way. That's insane to me. Here are the keys to the home that you just spent $500,000 on. Oh, by the way, here's my online store. We can get all your services set up, and I can do it right here for you. Little disclosure in the mortgage or whatever, that you make a little tiny percentage of the billing that comes in from the services that you're signing up, and you're doing it out of convenience for your customer. Done. Stacking these things is going to lead to progress. Well, guess what happens? I got it right here in my notes. You're now progressing your skills. You're progressing your abilities. And what does that ultimately mean for you guys? What does that really mean? It means that you're doing the same amount of work in less time because your skill set lets you accomplish things faster than when you're new. Now people go, gosh, Dean, this is kind of basic information. Yes, it's totally basic, but sometimes we need to be reminded about this idea of skill set. So you guys, there's so many famous stories out of sports that talk about this, about practicing a play over and over and over. Kobe Bryant, the legendary stories about him being at the gym before all the All-Stars, staying after, right? and how some guys wanted to outdo Kobe and they tried to get to the gym before him and they heard a noise in the gym and it was already him practicing. Right? Daryl knows what I'm talking about. He's nodding his head. Al knows. You guys, so am I telling you that you got to get up at 4 a.m. to practice ACN? No, I'm not. Yeah, Al's like, yeah, but Al's a maniac. There's FYI side note, Al's a maniac, but that's cool. I love him. But what it does mean is this. If you do what most people won't do, you will end up with what most people don't have. And by the way, when you are consistent in your stacking of these things, and you are consistent in your desire to make it happen part-time, your progress, I have it right here. Your progress is inevitable. You can't, it cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped. And what's exciting is this. I think this I almost said a really bad word. I mean, it's a good, but it's freaking exciting. When your progress is inevitable, you're proof. And when you are proof, people want to be a part of what it is that you're doing. When you're proof. You know, we just promoted a regional vice president, Ryan Ruiz. Now, for years, like I have leaders that are on this call. Christine's been with me for a long time. Roxanne, phenomenal leader, has been with me for a long time. There's Greg Williamson's been like, there's people that have been, we've been working together for a long time. And here's what happened, just to give you guys a little bit of history so you can predict the future. Okay, here goes. Here goes. A little bit of history for my team so you can predict the future. And this is probably going to happen. By the way, let me rephrase that. This probably will not happen for all of you. This will happen for those of you on here that choose to have this happen. Here's what happened to me. Okay. Here's what happened to me. So we were rolling. Sorry, here we go. We were rolling years ago, and I was the only real RD at the time. It was called team coordinator and regional vice president in my team. Now I had some RDs, but they were like, it was almost like in position only. They weren't really producing. Okay. They weren't really producing. And then Ryan broke as a team coordinator, now regional director. And he was very intentional and had the idea and the belief that one day he was going to go RVP. And he had people come and go, come and go, come and go. Well, it was after Ryan. Here's what ended up happening. Jamie Emanuele became an RD. Roxanne Corlejo became an RD. Lauren Clark became an RD. Justin Nepomuceno became an RD. Chris Sampson became an RD. Greg Williamson became an RD. And all of a sudden, all these people are hitting regional director, right? It took a minute to break the one, but the one did. And it's almost like it was permission for everybody else. Mark my words. Remember, I said this, and I know you guys are recording it. We're going to break RVPs. Why? Because we broke the ice on this one. We cracked the code on this one. Once someone does it, another person can do it. And they went, dude, I'm definitely doing it. But by the way, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because I love the guy. I love the guy. But look, even for me, it's like, if Dean can do it, that guy, the bartender, he went RVP. I'm 100% going RVP. And it's almost like once it's done, once one gets it done outside of the main leader, I didn't have any RVPs. I'm telling you guys right now, watch what happens in the next 12 to 24 months. I'm telling you, I already know it. I already know it. So progress, when you stack the core skills and activities that are required to build your ACN business, when you start stacking those things up, your progress is inevitable. It's inevitable. By the way, who likes the idea that you going RD, RVP, even SVP, right, Al? Who likes the idea that that's inevitable? I hope you do. For those of you that didn't raise your hand, you better be smiling. I'm just kidding. That's my point. So you guys, progress. Al does this call 5 days a week, and whatever he does on the weekends, why do you think he does it? Well, now I'll tell you one reason he does it. Okay. They just announced this new position of SVP Platinum. Don't tell me you don't think that Al Thomas wants to go SVP Platinum. Do not tell me that you don't think Al Thomas wants to go SVP Platinum. I'm telling you, that's just part of the deal. Mr. Thomas, true story.
I wish all these people on here would go RVP, and that would take care of it for everybody. Everybody's go RVP.
Yeah,
Done.
See, this is why he's so damn good. You're so good. You just stole my thunder. I was going to say this. I was going to say, of course he wants to go SVP Platinum, but the way he understands to do it is by helping everybody go RVP. And that's the deal here. That's why we talk. That's why he does this 5 days a week. That's why we do things like Tahoe. That's why we promote the events. That's why we do this. Okay. So now, that being said, let's talk about progress for a second and we'll wrap up. Okay. Many of you know and have listened to Jim Rohn. You've watched his videos. You've heard his. Well, I want you guys just to hear this and I want you to apply it to what we talked about. So let me bring this up.
Go to work on yourself harder than you work on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. Then he said, if you work hard on yourself, you could make a fortune. So I worked hard on my job and made a living, but I learned, starting with those extra hours per week, learning these extra skills, I started working on myself. What could I do to start increasing my progress and make my health better, make my income better, make my investments better, make my value to the marketplace much better, get busy learning the second skill and the third skill and the next language and the next language to increase my value. I got to get busy and do that. See if you will do that. I promise you, one of the greatest motivating factors in the world is progress.
Did you guys catch what he said in the middle of it? Did you catch what he said? Work on that second skill. Work on that third skill. When I found this, I went looking for it, after I already had my notes down, that's our whole thing. You start stacking up the skills. Do you guys think the regional director, watch this, here we go. Do you guys think the regional directors on this call know how to present the business? Do you think they know how to pique someone's interest? Do you think they know how to sign up a customer? Do you think they know how to handle objections? Do you think they know how to do something, maybe one thing every single day in spite of their schedule, their life, personal, family, change of occupation? Do you think they know how to do one thing a day? I just shared with you guys the stacking the skills of what it would take to become a regional director. And now if you're consistent and you identify some leaders, now you can go regional vice president. I'm telling you, there is a code, there's a formula, and there's a code, right? Problem is most people want to try to find the formula without going in the lab and doing the work. Got to get in the lab. Got to get on the playing field, right? Got to get out of the stands and on the field. And you start stacking those things up, progress is inevitable. And when your progress is inevitable, you are proof. And when you are proof, you're going to have people come back to you that passed last year and ask you this year, is it too late for them? And will you help them? Yes. After you buy me lunch. No, just don't say that. Gotta have fun though. Right. So I hope you guys, from going from having a disruptive mindset last week to understanding to stack these things, and it does not have to take long. You can do this quickly. You can do this efficiently, and you can do it effectively and figure it out. Start today. One of the things I said, I have some of this new team that I'm working with in the Midwest and in the Pacific Northwest. Some of them are on here. And I said, look, you guys, you got to become best friends with ACN Compass. You got to get in there, click on products and watch the trainings on the services. Right. So you're confident about what it is you're talking about. You guys want to hear one crazy story before I split? Al, do we have time for one quick story before I split or no? You're muted,
Absolutely.
Sir. Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, not trying to jinx this. Please wait, hang on. Let me do this. I got to knock on wood, right? Okay. Knock on wood. Okay. So this is this is through my dad in Milwaukee. So I just want you guys to think about this. Okay. My dad is a guy on his team who has stayed active, but he hasn't been active. Does that make sense? His position is active, but he is not really doing a lot. He talked to a friend that owns a property management company moving into the Milwaukee market. Okay, hang on one second. So the guy moves into the Milwaukee market, and here's what's happening, which is crazy. Guy goes, we're moving into a warehouse. We'd be interested in checking out, security for the warehouse. Okay, cool. So I've handled that. Well, it turns out that this property management company has duplexes and fourplexes, I guess, whatever. And in Milwaukee that they're renting, that they're going to rent to, tenants. Right. So 277 properties. And the plan right now is to get to 2,500 single family home or duplexes in the next 3 to 5 years. And they want security in all of them. Could that be good? How did that happen? One person opened his mouth, got connected with the leader, that was me, and now that process has started. So the reason I share that with you, who knows? Look, you guys, it's possible that this does not come to fruition. But it would be impossible for it to come to fruition if someone didn't take some action. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather have a shot at it. How about you? Yeah, me too. So you guys, hope you have a great rest of the day. Make it a really good week. Do not fall into the trap of the holidays. This is the best time to build ACN, period. And I'll talk about some things to do next week as we get closer to, the holiday parties and Christmas parties and work Christmas parties and end of the year parties and New Year's Eve coming up. And there's a way to be able to do this and to do it with class and with character and have people want to engage with you about this. I know a lot of you are going to be traveling. Some people we're going to see a lot. Some people we're not going to see for a while. It's, that's inevitable. That's the time of the year that it is. But you find ways to stay in contact and stay connected. It's important, right? So that being said, Mr. Thomas, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thanks for the extra couple minutes to share that last little story. I hope that this was helpful and have a good week.
Wow. Before you leave, everybody, before we get off the call, let's do this. Let's recap real quick. Number one thing that I wrote down was longevity, right? Longevity equals what? Credibility. How long have you been in? Number two, he says you have to do your best with what you got. Man, is that so true? That's a true statement I've ever heard one. Next, he says, what are you doing to disrupt your schedule? Man, I had a call with my leaders last night about disrupting their schedule. And then again, why am I coming and what's my plans and what's my agenda? Love it, sir. Thank you. He also talked about stacking your skills. What's the number one skill set? Does anybody know what the number one skill set is? What? Come on. What's the number one skill set? Listening. Listen. He also said skill sets always what? Activity, closing, what? Appointments, what? Exposures, and learn how to peak. Stacking, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then progress.